Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose, and we did get an update for that Nintendo Switch flash cart. Everybody was kind of curious if that video that surfaced last week was legitimate or not, and well, we did get our answer today, plus plenty more, and right now, I do imagine Nintendo is on even higher alert than what they already were. So we're gonna get into all of that today, as well as another improvement for Blizzard post-acquisition. Microsoft has continuously claimed that this acquisition will result in their games being even more accessible. And well, so far, they have backed up their word. And this is actually huge news that will impact millions of gamers that were left frustrated just earlier this year. This is an absolutely fantastic outcome to end the year with, so do make sure to stay tuned for that as well. To get things started off today, though, let's go talk about PlayStation and their 2024 lineup of games. They did confirm yet another exclusive title for next year, being Stellar Blade. This is a game that a lot of people have had their eye on pretty much since it was first announced as Project Eve back in 2019. It's a Korean-developed game supposedly inspired by games like God of War, Nier Automata, and Bayonetta. So quite the list of games to live up to, but so far it does look really promising, and that's something that Sony has taken note of. They signed a partnership to publish Stellar Blade themselves, and they have now confirmed it will release in 2024. Now, unfortunately, they haven't announced an exact release date just yet, but what we can see here is that the wait is almost over, and I mean, if this game is as good as it looks, then yeah, it could be a standout hit next year when it does release. Overall, though, I'd say that the PS5's 2024 lineup is actually starting to shape up. It is kind of a weird year in a sense that they haven't really confirmed a lot of first-party games from their own studios, but on the other hand, they do have a solid lineup of third-party and second-party exclusives. So far, that list includes Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is probably actually my most anticipated game right now. Then you have Helldivers 2, Rise of the Ronin, Stellar Blade, and then lastly, their first-party live service title, Concord, which is developed by Firesprite. We still weirdly don't really know much about that game. We've only gotten a brief CGI snippet for whatever reason, but it is planned for 2024, so I imagine they will lift the lid on that game sometime here soon. Maybe some kind of showcase for early 2024, I guess we'll see, but that's kind of the thing. There is still potential for more announcements, such as Silent Hill 2. There's a good chance that that will be a 2024 game as well, and it is a PlayStation console exclusive, so I think that they do have a rather solid lineup of exclusives. Now, speaking of 2024, we do have a couple more games to talk about here, including Lollipop Chainsaw RePop. This is probably one of the most surprising remasters in development, and that is something that we do need to clarify as well. They have since confirmed that this is a remaster and not a remake. You can actually see their tweet here that says, "We have changed RePop's game design from remake to remaster based on everyone's requests." Yeah, so that is kind of a strange request from fans. I don't know exactly what happened with all that. I can't imagine it, but definitely don't go in expecting some sweeping changes for RePop or anything like that. This is more in line with a remaster, but I mean, at the same time, the fact that this game is coming back at all, I'd say is pretty nice to see. I know I certainly wasn't expecting this game to return, but it is a cult classic that a lot of people really enjoyed. So for those fans, you might be happy to know that it's once again officially confirmed to be a 2024 release. Now, one game that I'm optimistically keeping an eye on, though, is Slitterhead. Now, the reason for this is because it is coming from the newly founded studio Bokeh Game Studio, which is led by the creator of Silent Hill and Gravity Rush, Kishiro Toyama. He is once again returning to the horror genre with this really crazy-looking game. Its design is pretty wild based on what we've seen so far, but it also appears to maybe lean into action quite a bit. I think that it's probably safe to say that this is not just some simple Silent Hill spiritual successor. This is going to be a completely different game that leans into action horror, so it will be interesting to see what they come up with here. And, well, it does sound like we will get a more clear view next year. This is coming from Toyama, who said 2024 will be a decisive year in which our studio's first title, Slitterhead, will really begin being shown. Given that it will significantly influence our future, it will be an important year, so I would like to face it with enthusiasm. So there you go. we'll hopefully get more of a deep dive into what this game is sometime next year, and hopefully it can live up to his reputation, because he has really made some excellent games in the past. Okay, so let's go into this big developing story that everybody's so curious to see how it all unfolds. The Nintendo Switch Flash card that emerged online last week. Clearly, this is a big deal for the homebrew scene, because what this essentially does is that it allows players to put Switch games on an SD card, and then they can use this flash card to kind of trick the Switch into believing that it's an authentic Switch cartridge. Now, at first, people were kind of skeptical on if this was some kind of ruse or not, but it has since been confirmed. It was fully unveiled today. It has a website, and its official name is the MiG Switch. Now, Aftertime X posted a huge post about this on their Twitter feed as they uncovered some details, and we'll kind of go over some of this. That way you'll be able to better understand what this device does or does not do. So the first big thing that I think they revealed was that they said, after reviewing the MiG website, it seems that the backup ROMs that are currently floating around out there on the internet are not supported, as the format that the MiG Switch uses is slightly different. We don't understand all the technical reasons behind this change, but you can be sure that scene release groups won't take long to make compatible repacks available to the piracy masses out there, as the instructions published on their website are clear. So it seems to be a very simple process. So what this basically tells you is that ROMs that you can download online currently won't work as is. That will ultimately rely on the community and their effort. MiG, however, is advertising this as a card that can back up your already owned Nintendo Switch games, and they're making it very clear that any kind of piracy or illegal backups will void its warranty. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that warranty will stop the community from doing those things. We'll see how all that shapes up, but what they're ultimately trying to do here is that they're trying to avoid being blamed themselves for any type of piracy, which that seems inevitable when it comes to a device like this. In fact, when you first go over to their website, the first thing they make you do is agree to their terms of service, because they know that piracy could be a problem with a device like this. Nintendo is going to have this on their radar. So they're more or less trying to protect themselves from that situation, as, again, I'm sure Nintendo has this product on their radar. Now, another question that a lot of people had with the original video that was going around was that it appeared that you have to reinsert the cartridge to swap games. So if you have, let's say, multiple games on a single SD card, you have to reinsert that cartridge into the Switch over and over again to cycle through those games. Well, that was also confirmed by Aftertime X. Apparently, their reasoning for this is that the Switch cartridge slot will be better quality than what they can do with a built-in button for the cartridge to cycle through games. I mean, you can kind of take that as you will, but it does sound rather annoying if you have a lot of games stored on one single SD card, and it does remain to be seen just how well the Switch will hold up over time as you continue to reinsert that cartridge over and over again. I think for me, I'd rather my card kind of tear up over time rather than the entire Switch itself, but hey, that's just me. The last thing that really caught my attention with all this, though, is that they have a lot of confidence that Nintendo won't be able to block the MiG Switch with a firmware update. The answer they had for this question was apparently a confident no, as they said their product design is fully and conveniently upgradable. So let's say Nintendo tries to block this device, which I imagine they will, then their plans is to simply upgrade the MiG Switch and you'll be good to go once again. That's something that I think fans need to kind of be mindful of, though. I mentioned this the other day, but I think one thing Nintendo will look into is banning consoles. If they can detect that you're using a MiG Switch, there's a chance that Nintendo will ban your console completely. Now, that's not necessarily a big deal for everybody, but if you want to keep your Switch online, it's something to maybe approach cautiously, if anything else. Nintendo could swing the hammer hard on this one, so just gotta proceed at your own risk, because we don't really know what Nintendo will do. If you really are interested in the MiG Switch, though, they've yet to announce its price, but they did say that the distributor pre-orders will start in January with limited quantities, with full availability expected for March or April of 2024. So, I mean, we'll see what happens with all this, but reviews should be coming relatively soon. They did mention that they're planning to send review units in early January, so a lot of those questions that the community has will be answered then. Okay, now let's go and talk about Blizzard, though, because something happened today that I don't even think people fully realize how big this actually is. So unfortunately last year, Blizzard had a big dispute with NetEase, and ultimately they never came to any kind of agreement, which led to them not renewing their contract. So the repercussions to that was significant, as popular games such as Overwatch, you have Diablo, and possibly most importantly, World of Warcraft was pulled out of China earlier this year. Now, if you're unaware, China is actually one of the biggest markets for World of Warcraft with an estimated 3 million players. So millions of players who put years of their life into the long-running MMO suddenly lost access to their account over this dispute. There was a big article written up about this and how Chinese players were in just absolute disbelief over the situation. So this was a major loss for the community and actually the health of the game alike. You know, keep in mind that World of Warcraft, it still has new content in development as we speak. So having those millions of players is obviously important for the future of World of Warcraft as well. Thankfully, though, according to a new report, Blizzard and NetEase have finally come to a new agreement. Now, maybe Microsoft had a say on the matter, considering the timing of this is actually quite convenient. This is only mere months after the acquisition was completed, so maybe they stepped in to help fix the problem here. As they've said like 100 times by this point, they want these games to be more accessible, not that these regulators actually care to pay attention to. FTC, I'm looking at you. And that accessibility also does include them being easier to get in places like China. Either which way, games like Diablo, Overwatch, and World of Warcraft is set to return in China. That's great for each one of these games. It's also great for the Chinese community, though there is one unfortunate part about this, because it will take time. This is not going to happen immediately. That is the one downside to this entire situation, because reportedly it will take NetEase up to 6 months to rebuild the servers and teams. With Microsoft leading the charge from this point forward, though, hopefully a situation like this doesn't happen again. It's not great for business, but from a consumer standpoint, it's the fans that I really feel for in a situation like this. To have something like this ripped away from you, I know a game like World of Warcraft is so important for so many people out there, so to have a game like that ripped away from all these players, you know, hopefully a situation like that just doesn't happen again. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this video. We really got to talk about all of the big three, at least to some capacity today. PlayStation confirmed a new exclusive. You have Blizzard making amends over in China. And then, of course, Nintendo, you have the whole flash cart situation. So, you know, fun times ahead, I guess. But anyways, till next time, peace out.